Mr. Goodrich. Do you swear or affirm that the testimony you will give today will be the truth, the whole truth, and nothing but?
I do.
Good morning.
Good morning.
Could you please state your whole name for the record?
Barry Goodrich,
And who are you employed by, Mr. Goodrich?
Enbridge,
What is your business address?
5400 Westheimer Court, Houston, Texas.
Did you submit pre-filed testimony in this case?
I did.
And did you submit 2 volumes of testimony?
I did.
One was direct testimony and the other was rebuttal?
Yes,
Do you have copies of that testimony in front of you?
I do.
And did you sign both volumes of your testimony under the pains and penalties of perjury?
I did.
Do you have any corrections that you need to make to your testimony
I do
today?
not.
Do you adopt the testimony that is in front of you as your testimony in this proceeding?
I do.
Thank you.
Mr. Goodrich is available for cross-examination.
Okay, thank you. Good morning. Good morning.
Good morning.
My name is Raymond Miyares. I'm the special counsel for the town of Weymouth.
Keep your voice up.
If we could please turn to paragraph 33 of your pre-filed testimony, not your rebuttal, your initial pre-filed testimony.
I got it.
Okay. According to that paragraph, you state that Algonquin proposes something called solar NOx as a technology to minimize NOx combustion emissions. Is that correct?
Yes.
Okay. And then if you go to paragraph 34, you say that Algonquin proposes to use an oxidation catalyst to reduce VOC emissions by 50%. Is that correct?
Yes.
And VOC would include formaldehyde. Is that correct?
Formaldehyde is a VOC, yes.
Okay. How does the oxidation catalyst work?
It facilitates the oxidation of compounds by lowering their reaction temperature.
So when you say that the oxidation catalyst will reduce VOCs by 50%, can we agree that the 50% reduction occurs when the oxidation catalyst is operating at full efficiency?
Yes, as an overall destruction efficiency of VOC.
And can we agree that there's a period of time when the Solar 60 starts up during which oxidation catalyst is not operated?
There is a period of time during startup that it's not operating. However, it will start taking effect during the 9-minute startup period.
Okay.
As a conservative nature, we estimate that it's not operating during the whole time to make sure that we're comprehensive in our mission calculation.
Okay, but during that period of time, there is at least some period of time when the oxidation catalyst will not reduce VOCs by 50%. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay, if you could please now turn to page 28 of your rebuttal testimony. What did I say? Oh, I said page, I meant paragraph.
Yes.
You say there that the startup cycle for the turbine does not, in fact, take 30 minutes. Is that correct?
Correct.
Okay. And now, if you could go to paragraph 13 of your rebuttal testimony. Are you aware of any gas-fired turbines that have been approved for operation at 25 ppm NOx emission levels?
Hold on, just reading through real quick. Did you ask your question again?
Are you aware of any gas-fired turbines that have been approved for operation at 25 ppm NOx emission levels?
None specifically off the top of my head, but I assume there are some since that is the new source performance standard for these units.
Okay, ExxonMobil Bay, Northwest Goldfield turbine.
No,
Okay, are you familiar with EPA's Clean Air Technology Center backed clearinghouse?
yes.
Okay, so now we got that. So I'm going to show you a document, pass it on.
Mr. Goodrich, if you just give us a second before answering some.
Okay. Are you familiar with documents of this sort?
I've seen similar documents, yes.
Okay. And what do you understand this document to be?
This document is a finding that back for carbon monoxide for this specific unit for a PSD project was 50 ppm, and back for this specific project, for this specific PSD project was 25 ppm for NOx.
Okay. Thank you. Now if you could go to paragraph 18 of your rebuttal testimony. Yes, could you go down and mark this document for identification?
Any objection?
For identification, no.
19?
20.
Okay, so paragraph 18 of your rebuttal testimony. You cite there a number of in-person maintenance tasks that are required for an SCR system. Is that correct?
Yes,
And one that you mentioned there is on-site cleaning. You see that?
yes.
How frequently does that need to occur?
Depends on how the catalyst is operating with a gas-fired turbine. It's periodic. It will be done at least annually. But if the catalyst indicates that it's being plugged by something, they'll go in and shut the unit down and clean it.
But it's not daily or weekly, is that correct?
Depends on the needs. It's variable.
Have you ever known a SCR system that required on-site cleaning as frequently as weekly?
Not to my knowledge.
And who does that work?
Operations personnel, or we hire it out to contractors that needs to be done.
Okay, and how long does it take?
I'm not sure. I know it takes about a half day for the unit to fully cool down before we can enter the unit to remove the catalyst. I know a catalyst change out in and of itself to pull the blocks out and replace them only takes over a day or two for multiple people.
Okay. And the next thing up you have is catalyst sampling, testing, and replacement or exchange evaluations. You see that?
Yep.
And how frequently does that need to occur?
Once again, it depends on the guidance from the manufacturer, but it's periodic and as needed.
Okay, so this, what is the most frequent interval that you've known this to happen? take place?
It could be as frequent as 6 months or a year.
Okay, and who does that work?
Once again, it's either operations personnel or a vendor that would come out that we would pay to do it.
Okay. And then next up, you have maintenance and inspection of the ammonia injection system. You see that?
Yep,
Okay. And how frequently is that usually?
every day.
Every day?
Yep. Our personnel walk the entire site every day to make sure there's no issues with any equipment at the site.
And who does that?
Operations personnel.
And how long does it take?
Depends on the size of the facility, but if you're talking specifically for the SCR system, takes maybe an hour to walk through the entire system and make sure everything's working correctly.
Okay. And who does that?
Operations personnel.
Okay. And are you familiar with the fact that this is an unstaffed facility?
I'm aware that this facility will have someone at it during normal business hours.
What about loading of ammonia?
That's depending on the size of the tank and the usage rate, so it'd be periodic. I didn't size the tank for this facility, so I don't know how frequent it would be for this facility.
Okay. And who does it?
It would be the operations personnel on site in conjunction with a contractor coming on site that hauls the ammonia. When they bring it in, they would have to do a safety orientation with the person coming on site, make sure that all the fittings are correct, walk through the whole process, make sure he's aware of how to enter and exit the site safely, and then they would do the loading, and then they would basically escort him out.
Okay. And the last thing on your list is equipment adjustments. How frequently do those need to occur?
Periodically as needed,
Okay. And who does that?
with the operations personnel.
And how long does it take?
Depends on what's needed to adjust. They would typically walk the site and look at all the equipment. This is only a small list of the things that are routinely done. There's ongoing maintenance of the entire system to make sure all of the tubing is in the correct shape, correct working order, any pumps that need to be inspected and replaced on a routine basis. There's all sorts of miscellaneous equipment that needs to be monitored to make sure that it's working on an ongoing basis.
Got it. Okay. If you could turn, please, to paragraph 16 of your rebuttal testimony.
Yep.
There you quote a DEP-backed guidance document. You see that?
Yes.
And in the first line of that document, it makes reference to boiler manufacturers. You see that?
Yep.
Is the Solenox turbine a boiler?
No, it is not.
Do you know the difference between a turbine and a boiler?
One combusts fuel to make rotational energy to use in mechanical devices. The other combusts fuel to heat up a liquid to use that energy in other sources.
What about in terms of gas flow?
Depends on the size. I don't really understand your question.
Well, if you compare the gas flow per million BTU of a boiler versus a turbine, what would you
Which
expect?
gas?
I'm sorry?
Which gas? Are you talking fuel?
Let me ask questions, Mr. Goodrich.
Yes, I'm talking about fuel.
Depends on the size of the unit.
Okay. Okay, at the bottom of page 6, sentence that starts off at the bottom of page 6 and carries on. When analyzing the incremental cost of using SCR to reduce the non-ppm NOx emission rate attained by ULNB to reach a 5 ppm NOx emission limit, it became readily apparent that requiring SCR with added NH3 emissions would be economically infeasible. You see that?
Yes.
Okay. And you're talking about incremental cost there, is that correct?
Objection, that's the DEP guidance that you're quoting.
Sustained.
the quotation refers to incremental back cost calculation, is that correct?
Correct.
If you now could refer to paragraph 22. And specifically to your footnote 7. You describe the MIT CHP facility as being much larger than what is proposed for North Weymouth. Is that correct?
Yes.
What do you consider to be the significance of the size difference?
I believe this unit is a 6 megawatt unit, and these are 22 megawatt units.
Okay, and what difference does that make in terms of economic comparisons?
Typically, you would see economies of scale associated with larger units.
Okay, so is it appropriate to make economic comparisons of facilities that have significantly different megawatt ratings?
Not always, unless you're making adjustments for those different megawatt ratings.
Okay, so how much of a difference would you say is significant enough to allow direct comparisons?
It depends on the specific scenario.
We're talking here about comparing the MIT CHP facility to what's being proposed.
I would argue that they're entirely different operating facilities. You're comparing two 22 megawatt turbines used for heat and power generation versus a single Taurus 60 used for a compressor, driving a compressor. They're two different scenarios.
I understand they're two different scenarios. I'm asking you about the difference in size.
Objection. Question?
It is a question.
Can you read
The question I asked was, how much of a difference would you say, how much of a difference in size between those two facilities would you say is significant enough to make it inappropriate to make cost comparisons?
I don't think it's just size that makes it inappropriate to make cost comparisons. So it's multiple items. Even if this was a 22 megawatt compressor driver, I wouldn't say it's entirely appropriate to make direct comparisons between those two units.
Okay. Please refer to paragraph 24 of your rebuttal testimony. There you discuss a Dominion compressor station in Virginia.
I'm sorry, you discussed, I couldn't hear you. I don't think they can hear you back there, sorry. They're all raising their
So
hand.
make sure you're speaking.
There you discuss a Dominion compressor station in Virginia, where the applicant did a top-down back analysis and concluded that SCR was not backed because it was not cost-effective. Correct?
Correct.
I'm going to show you. I'm going to show you a document. And we'll pass them around.
You want to mark this for ID?
Yes, please.
21.
Do you have one extra? Thank you.
We have to read the manual.
Thank you. Okay. Now, have you seen this document before?
I've seen documents like it, I don't know if I've seen the specific one.
Okay, can you tell me what it is?
It is a Virginia Department of Environmental Quality interagency memo.
Okay. And what facility does it pertain to?
The Buckingham compressor station.
So if that's the same facility that, that you refer to in paragraph 24?
Yes.
Okay, if you could now turn to page 9, conveniently highlighted a sentence for you. Could you read that?
Control of NOx emissions by SCR is considered back.
Well, hold on one second. We don't have highlighting.
What page are you on, Mr. Miyares?
You don't have shading?
No. Well, that, I clicked on the wrong page.
Okay. Well, I don't know why some do and some don't, but we're on page 9. In the paragraph that is headed compressor turbines.
Thank you.
And we're on line 1, 2, 3, 4, 5.
Thank you.
Okay. See the sentence there?
Yes.
Read it already.
Yes.
So is it fair to say that the regulators in Virginia reached a different conclusion from the applicant in that case?
Yes, I believe in both cases they're state level backed analysis.
Okay. And in the sentence preceding there, there's a reference to 2 prior permits in other states for which SCR was required. Is that correct?
Yes, as I read it, there were 2 other permits with SCR issued, with SCR in the permit.
Okay, thank you very much. That was my further question.
Okay, Mr. Goldrosen?
Yes.
Do you want, I'm sorry, do you want to offer this?
Yes, we want to offer both of these documents as exhibits.
Any objection?
No to the second one. And yes on relevancy grounds to the first one.
Please.
Mr. Miyares, do you want to make an argument for why this is relevant?
So the question was whether there had been any combustion turbines of the similar to this that had been approved at 25 parts per million. As one of the key issues in this proceeding is whether when we are evaluating backed using a top-down, whether we begin at 25 parts per million or at 9 parts per million. So this is relevant to that.
I'm going to let it in, as I said yesterday, everything's relevant until you show that it's not. So we will go to the weight of this and address this. So that's,
Yeah, one of the issues that I was having is that there doesn't appear to be any date on this. It's hard to understand from this document then if this actually does bear any relevance to this proceeding or not, and there's no foundation.
well, we'll let it in and we'll deal with it as part of the record. I will record it the weight that it is due based on what is contained inside.
Thank you.
You're welcome. You may proceed.
Good afternoon. John Goldrosen for the town of Braintree. If you could go to paragraph 28 of your rebuttal testimony. And this concerns this the 30-minute startup scenario. And in the paragraph, you quote from the plan approval. in the last sentence of paragraph 28, you state the 30-minute model is not meaningful, however, because startups do not take 30 minutes, and there is nothing in the record or otherwise to suggest that they do. You know how it came to be that the plan approval has a provision allowing startups to be up to 30 minutes?
I believe it was in discussions with the agency that we were asked for a compliance parameter to put in the permit that would be acceptable to both sides for tracking startups, whether we are compliant with it or not.
All right, and who at DEP did you have that discussion? Were you the one who had that discussion?
I was in the meeting when we had the discussion.
And who at DEP?
I believe it was with Tom.
Please let him finish his answer before you go on.
I'm sorry. They asked you, who at DEP was involved in that discussion?
I believe it was with Tom. Cushing, yes.
All right. And so DEP asked Algonquin to give them a number according to the permit
For compliance purposes, yes.
for compliance purposes.
Mr. Goodrich, you gotta give me a second too, in case I need to make an objection for the record. Thank you.
Were you the one who, at Algonquin and Enbridge, who arrived at that 30-minute figure?
I believe it was in conversation with several people.
And what was the basis for suggesting 30 minutes for purposes of compliance?
For our operators, it was an easy time frame to keep track of, and being that we knew emissions took 9 minutes, it made it an easy point to comply with.
The only other question I have is really a matter of clarification, I think. And I believe it was your exhibit, your testimony, there was an exhibit showing proposed corrections to the air quality plan approval. Exhibit B, if I'm correct, your pre-file testimony.
So exhibit B.
I believe so. Is that the one that's the table with a list of corrections to the air quality?
Yeah.
Can you just clarify, are these corrections to the air quality plan approval as it was issued that you are proposing, or that Algonquin is proposing to be made to the approval?
Yes.
I have no further questions.
Mr. Hayden.
Thank you, Ms. Rothschild. Good afternoon, Mr. Goodrich.
Good afternoon.
Could you please turn to paragraph 14 of your pre-filed direct testimony? That paragraph continues over onto a second page, and it's the first sentence on page 5 that I'd like to draw your attention to. Maximum potential frequency of turbine shutdown events is 416 times per year. Do you see where I'm drawing your attention?
Yes.
How long are those shutdown events estimated to last time-wise?
From my recollection, from the calculations, I believe it's 8.5 minutes.
For each of the 416 events?
Yes, that's what we estimated as a maximum.
And are there different lengths of shutdowns depending on the nature of the shutdown event?
I would presume so.
But 8.5 is the average
8.5 is the maximum expected.
maximum. So the shutdown events are not expected to last more than 8.5 minutes for any reason. Is that fair?
Correct.
If I could turn your attention to paragraph 32 of your pre-filed direct testimony. Are you there?
Yes.
In the subparagraph entitled Gas Quality Data. Do you see that?
Yes.
You describe gas quality data collected from 421 samples taken across the system from 2011 through 2016. Is that correct?
Yes.
What system?
The entire Enbridge gas transmission system.
Describe that for us. What are the parameters?
It extends from the Gulf of Mexico all the way up through Maine.
Now, if the proposed Weymouth compressor station is put into operation, is it fair to say that the gas flowing through that compressor would be coming from a different source than the gas that is currently flowing through the I-9 and I-10 pipelines?
Can you let me know where the I-9 and I-10 pipelines are? Which ones those are?
Not really, if you're not familiar with that description. They're the pipelines that are feeding and flowing through this project.
Well, this project is the meeting of two pipelines.
The hub line, you familiar with the hub line?
I believe that's the one that goes north out of Weymouth.
Okay. And the whole concept of the Atlantic Bridge project is to reverse the flow of gas to be able to send gas north toward Maine and Canada, correct?
It's to provide that capability, yes.
And so currently the gas is flowing north to south, correct?
Sometimes it's not flowing at all, it just ends in Weymouth.
Fair enough. So the gas that will be, if this project is approved, will be shipped north through Maine and Canada is originating from a different source than the gas that is currently flowing through the pipelines at that location.
No, it's the same gas.
And forgive me, I'm just trying to follow. The gas currently is coming north to south.
Sometimes. Sometimes it stops and doesn't spill into the system from that.
Fair enough. But the gas in the future, if permitted, will flow from either west to east and then north, or from south to north, correct?
That's the current flow of the gas as it ends at Weymouth right now, unless we're bringing gas in from the north. So right now, gas comes from both directions and ends in Weymouth, or it could flow further south from Weymouth.
And the reason I want to be clear on where the gas will be coming from is the gas quality data that's described in paragraph 32 of your testimony doesn't attempt to isolate the portion of the Algonquin system that will feed the proposed compressor station, correct?
No, we assume our gas in our system is well mixed because we have several receipt points and delivery points throughout the entire system.
And is it fair to say that gas originating from different parts of the countries has different mixtures?
It's potential, I don't know for sure.
And we don't have any data to specify the gas quality for the gas that is reasonably anticipated to flow through the proposed Weymouth compressor station.
This would be the gas that is reasonably anticipated to flow through the station.
But you just said that's the entire network.
Correct.
It's a blend.
Correct. So is the gas that will flow through the Algonquin or through the Weymouth facility.
So is it your testimony that gas in Maine and gas in Texas, and gas in California, gas in Florida, all has the exact same gas quality data?
I don't have any data from California, but I would assume that it's all well represented by this 421 samples.
I don't want to know about well represented, and I understand the rationale for providing a system-wide overview and average. What I do want to know is whether would you expect in your professional experience that evaluating a sample of the gas quality for gas flowing through the Weymouth compressor station would be identical to the gas quality data obtained from 421 samples taken across the entire Algonquin system?
I would not expect it to be identical because the 421 samples are all different. I would expect it to be well represented by the statistical method we use on the 421 samples.
So you'll agree with me that the best you can offer and the best you have offered is gas quality data that is well represented, but it is not identical to the gas quality data for the gas that we would expect to flow through the Weymouth compressor station.
I would expect the gas quality that flows through the Weymouth compressor station to change over time and thus be represented by these samples.
If I could turn your attention to paragraph 9 of your rebuttal testimony, please. You signed this testimony under the pains and penalties of perjury, correct?
Correct.
Did you review this testimony with counsel before finalizing?
I did.
were you the person responsible for responding to the 10-person group's document request?
I participated in that process.
And in response to the 10-person group's document requests for all emissions warranties or guarantees obtained by the applicant, we were provided with 3 documents. Are you familiar with those 3 documents?
Objection. It's not right.
Okay. What is the foundation for your testimony in paragraph 9 of your rebuttal testimony?
That we provided all the documents that adequately explain the manufacturer guarantees and guidance for emissions.
What are those documents?
I'd have to go back and look, but I believe it's it is the product information letters and the technical proposals.
The 3 documents that I just referenced a moment ago.
There are actually others, and I can identify them for you when I bring it. Like,
This witness is under oath, having signed testimony sworn to under the pains and penalties of perjury. I'm more interested in his understanding than counsel's.
What are the 3 documents?
Thank you, Madam Presiding Officer. The 3 documents, and I believe they're all attached to this witness's testimony, and I can refer to those attachments further
His rebuttal
to
testimony?
his rebuttal testimony. It's the technical proposal submitted to Spectra Energy for the Atlantic Bridge Weymouth project from Solar Turbines. And it is 2 pills, as we learned from Mr. Fickus. It is pill
Can you please identify by exhibit number to the rebuttal testimony?
Absolutely. It's pill 167, exhibit A to Mr. Goodrich's rebuttal testimony. And solar turbine technical proposal that I just described as exhibit B to Mr. Goodrich's rebuttal testimony. Pill 170 is referenced in paragraphs 7 and 8 of Mr. Goodrich's rebuttal testimony, but I'm not seeing that that was attached as an exhibit.
It's exhibit C.
Oh, thank you. So exhibits A, B, and C. So Mr. Goodrich, again, drawing your attention back to paragraph 9 of your rebuttal testimony, you've identified 3 documents that constitute the universe of responses provided by the applicant to the 10-person group's document request concerning manufacturer guarantees, and those 3 documents are actually attached as exhibits to your pre-filed rebuttal testimony as exhibits A, B, and C, correct?
I believe that's correct.
And we already covered that you reviewed that with counsel before you finalized your testimony.
Yes.
If I could turn your attention to paragraph 4 of your rebuttal testimony. Would you read paragraph 4 for us, please?
Although not referenced by the 10-persons group, the standard temperature range warranty or emissions rate guarantee is included in section 2.3 of the solar turbine technical proposal entitled Gas Turbine Engine. It states,
Please.
emissions requirement 9 ppm NOx, 25 ppm CO, 25 ppm unburned hydrocarbon emissions per SER 15-064. Customer to purchase CO catalyst for 95% destruction of CO and 95% destruction of formaldehyde, or reduction of formaldehyde.
Can you continue?
Oh, sorry. The solar turbine technical proposal which Algonquin produced to the petitioners, is attached as Exhibit B, see ALG 16304.
Thank you. You would agree that the emissions requirement cited in paragraph 4 of your rebuttal testimony is the only language contained anywhere in your rebuttal testimony that attempts to reference a warranty or emission from Solar, the manufacturer?
I believe that is correct.
You didn't reference a document that actually has the word warranty in it, correct?
I do not believe I did.
And you did not reference a document that actually has the word guarantee in it, correct?
I believe the pills say that the startup emissions are not guaranteed.
Right, they do. So you agree that the pills say the startup emissions are not guaranteed, correct?
Correct.
And if we can have the witness review Exhibit 19.
Okay.
Have you seen this pill before?
I have.
Okay, so this is pill 168. It was not produced by Algonquin in connection with this proceeding, correct?
Correct.
Would you read the second paragraph under the introduction section on the left side of page 1?
Most permitting agencies require gas turbines.
I'm sorry, we're in the wrong spot. So do you see the introduction section?
Oh yeah, sorry, I skipped down to the next one.
So it's beginning with solar.
Solar does not typically warranty the emission rates for VOC, SO2, or formaldehyde.
Do you have any reason to dispute that statement in pill 168?
No, they guarantee unburned hydrocarbons.
What is unburned hydrocarbons?
It's VOC plus methane and ethane.
So not VOCs, not formaldehyde.
Formaldehyde is a VOC.
Okay. We're looking at pill 168. It says they don't guarantee or warranty, excuse me. Solar does not typically warranty the emission rates for VOC, SO2, or formaldehyde. I read that correctly.
Correct.
You, in paragraph 4 of your rebuttal testimony, cite an emissions requirement in a solar technical proposal, correct?
Yes.
Where in that document does it say that solar warranties VOCs or formaldehyde emissions?
As I said earlier, they warranty unburned hydrocarbons.
Where does it say they warranty unburned hydrocarbons?
That's our specification for them to meet.
Where is this? Okay. What document are you relying upon to offer testimony that solar warrants unburned hydrocarbons?
In our technical proposal, or in the technical proposal, where they list the performance requirements of the unit. Emission requirement, ALG 0016304. Those are the requirements that must be met for this project.
This is a technical proposal that a vendor provided to Algonquin, correct?
Correct.
It doesn't use the word warranty.
Correct.
It doesn't use the word guarantee.
Correct.
The pills that you provided in response to the 10 persons group document request for all warranty and guarantee information actually say there is no warranty for startup and shutdown emissions, correct?
Correct.
They do not say that there is a warranty for unburned hydrocarbons.
To look, I believe they refer to the non-standard warranty conditions of less than 50% load or less than 0.
We agree.
So the standard warranty is greater than 0 and above 50%.
Where is the standard warranty?
It's common knowledge in our industry.
It's not common knowledge to the 10 persons group or the citizens of Massachusetts who have asked for this information
Objection. Are you going to ask
repeatedly.
questions, or are you going to lecture the witness?
if somebody that was not an employee of Algonquin wanted to review the warranty for unburned hydrocarbons from solar turbines, excuse me, how would that person obtain that information?
They may be able to ask Solar for it if they're entering a negotiation.
Okay. And have you seen that document before?
I have seen similar documents for other units,
So the documents exist.
not for this unit,
Why not?
because we got what we needed for calculations based on the 9 ppm, 25 ppm, and 25 ppm from the technical proposal. That's a standard offering from Solar, and that's what we move forward with on calculations.
So let me make sure I'm following. For other units, you have seen documents that are warranties or guarantees of unburned hydrocarbons for solar turbines.
Yes,
That document does not exist for the solar turbine intended to be installed at the proposed Weymouth compressor station.
I don't know if it exists specifically at this time, but the ones that I do have exist for Marietta and I believe another facility, but they're different models of the units.
You agree you have not produced a solar turbine warranty or guarantee for the emissions of unburned hydrocarbons for the solar turbine intended for installation at the Weymouth compressor station.
I believe this would be the emission guarantee in the technical proposal. That would be enough for us to call it an emissions warranty because it's required of the vendor to meet it, and if we go out there and test it once it's installed, we believe it'll meet these requirements.
Mr. Goodrich, what page are you on?
I am on ALG 10016-304.
Does the document itself have a page number other than the?
Oh, page 10, sorry.
Thank you.
And I apologize, Madam Presiding Officer, I do have an extra copy of this. Oh, you have it? Okay. Okay. I apologize, Mr. Goodrich. I'm having trouble understanding the distinction that you're drawing between having in hand a written guarantee or warranty for the emissions of unburned hydrocarbons from solar turbines for other units, and your testimony that because you received a technical proposal from Solar with an emissions requirement for the proposed Weymouth compressor station solar turbine, that it is common industry knowledge that this emissions requirement is the equivalent of a guarantee or warranty.
Objection form, is there a question?
Yeah, the question is, why don't you have the written warranty or guarantee for this model turbine when you've obtained it for other solar turbines?
Okay, the objection is sustained, but you've remedied that with the question.
Because we looked at this and we thought this was good enough to use for our calculations because we understand these to be the maximum allowable limits from the unit.
Okay, so you didn't feel the need to follow up with the vendor to actually obtain the written warranty or guarantee?
I have requested it, but have not received it.
When did you request it?
I don't recall.
What year?
It was this year.
Do you have the application in, the air quality plan approval application?
I do not. If you could give me a copy of it.
Attorney Cramb, I don't have an extra copy of the application, but I do have an extra copy of the
I
page.
think he has it actually from to his right side, left side, sorry. Maybe it's under the GBH mic. Yeah.
This is, oh, this is, sorry. I thought I was holding up the mic.
All right, Mr. Goodrich, I'm going to call your attention to a specific section within the application. Take your time and let me know when you found it. It is the last two paragraphs of section 5.4.5, which is set forth on page 5-11 if you're looking at the bottom right of the page.
So 5.4.5, and then page 511, where are you looking?
Correct. So this large paragraph at the top of the page that begins with the word completing,
Yes.
would you read the sentence beginning with Algonquin will be the first customer through to the end of the paragraph?
Enunciate it. You're reading fast then.
Sorry. Algonquin will be the first customer of Solar's to receive a 9 ppm NOx vendor guarantee for a Solar Taurus 60-7802 turbine. Other Taurus 60-7802 units have been guaranteed at 15 ppm VD NOx at 15% O2. Because this is a new design and the resulting shakedown period to fully evaluate and tune the new turbine installation.
I'm sorry, I don't mean to interrupt you, but I think because this is a new design and the resulting, I think you skipped a line.
Oh, I'm sorry. I'll start with, because this is a new design and the resulting NOx emissions are dependent on site-specific factors, Algonquin and Solar are requesting an extended shakedown period to fully evaluate and tune the new turbine installation to achieve the very low NOx-backed emission rate. Based on information from the vendor, Algonquin expects a 6-month shakedown period before the 9 ppm VD technology will be installed and fully operational on the turbine. In this interim time period, Algonquin will meet a NOx-backed emission limit of 15 ppm V at 15% O2 during normal operation. The 15 ppm V NOx limit is consistent with back limits for many existing simple cycle turbines using Solar DLN technology.
Is that paragraph accurate in the information conveyed to the department?
As far as I know, at the time the application is put together, yes.
So what that paragraph says is during this 6-month shakedown period, the emissions requirement that you're relying upon from the technical proposal submitted by Solar to Algonquin cannot be achieved.
That's not what that says at all.
What does that say?
That says that it may not be achieved and may require additional time to tune a new unit down to that level.
Fair enough, I'll take your interpretation. Is that a warranty that you will achieve the emissions requirement stated on page 10 of the technical proposal from Solar Turbines?
After the shakedown period, it will, and very likely during the shakedown period as well.
Okay. That, your interpretation of the paragraph you read from application section 5.4.5 is a warranty from the vendor that it will achieve the emissions requirement described on page 10 of the technical proposal during the 6-month shakedown period.
Objection form. You're asking him if the application is a warranty?
I'm asking if the vendor is warranting the emissions during that 6-month shakedown period.
We restate the question for the record.
Sure. Mr. Goodrich, you've agreed with me that the paragraph from section 5.4.5 is accurate, correct?
I believe it's accurate in asking for an extended period of time to implement the first generation of a 9 ppm turbine.
And that's 6 months of shakedown.
That's what we asked for, yes.
Now, is it your testimony that the vendor is guaranteeing the emissions requirement set forth on page 10 of its technical proposal during that 6-month shakedown period?
My understanding is they guaranteed it, but being that it's a new technology, we wanted some wiggle room in order to make sure that we could comply with the permit out of the box, so we asked for a slightly higher emission rate during that time period to ensure that we were covered and to be entirely clear with the agency that we were implementing new technology that may not achieve its guaranteed rate straight out of the box on first installation.
If I could turn your attention back to page 10 of the technical proposal, that same emissions requirement language that we've been looking at,
Yes.
would you read the second sentence, please,
Second sentence, where, sorry?
of the emissions requirement?
Customer to purchase CO catalyst for 95% destruction of CO and 95% reduction of formaldehyde.
You would agree with me that Solar is not warranting the information in that sentence?
I agree.
Who is?
I believe it would be the catalyst manufacturer in that scenario.
I'm sorry, I didn't hear.
The catalyst manufacturer would be the one that would have to provide that warranty.
And who is the catalyst manufacturer?
I don't know who the catalyst manufacturer was. I believe we submitted the catalyst performance codes to the agency for this permit.
If you could turn to attachment E of the air quality plan approval application, that is the best available control technology analysis.
Sorry, can you repeat the page, please?
It's attachment E. And I don't believe, Ms. Rothschild, it has, I'm sure there's a page number within the larger PDF, but I just have the attachment
Attachment E2.
to the air quality plan approval application.
Can you tell me what's in attachment E so I can find it a little better?
It's the BACT analysis.
I am there.
Okay, the first page of attachment E is a cover page that states preliminary cost estimate SCR CO catalyst systems for 3 solar engines, Mars 100, Mars 90, Taurus 60.
Yes,
And it's a cost estimate from a company named Fossil Energy Research Corp.
correct.
Is that the oxidation catalyst manufacturer?
No, that's the SCR manufacturer for the back analysis there.
Is there any document in the application that references the oxidation catalyst manufacturer?
You know,
I don't believe I know if it's in here or not. I believe we submitted it to the agency.
Attorney Cramb, if the witness knows and is looking, I'm happy to give him all the time he needs. If the witness doesn't know and is just fishing,
I don't know, I'm just flipping through to see if it jumps out at me.
your examination.
do you think you can find that information in the application, sir?
If I flip through every page, I might be able to, but off the top of my head.
Well, let me ask you a question, and then if you want the opportunity to do that, I will afford that to you. When we looked at the emissions requirement a moment ago in the technical proposal, that was Exhibit B to your rebuttal testimony,
Yes,
and I asked you who is warranting the information and emissions requirement described in the second sentence,
yes.
your answer was the oxidation catalyst manufacturer.
I believe so. Normally we, in my recent projects, we've been purchasing that from Solar as well, and they've just been contracting it out. So that was my basis for that statement, was that they're the ones that warranty it.
Okay. Are you able to testify under oath that Solar is manufacturing the oxidation catalyst for the proposed Weymouth compressor station?
Solar does not manufacture the catalyst or any catalyst.
Okay. Your paragraph 9 of your rebuttal testimony stated that Algonquin complied with the 10-person group's document request concerning manufacturer guarantees by producing in accordance with its written response all responsive documents in its possession.
Yes,
There is no document that Algonquin has produced that includes an emissions warranty from a CO catalyst manufacturer for 95% destruction of CO and 95% reduction of formaldehyde. Do you agree?
I'm not seeing one in the documents I have in front of me.
So you would agree that your rebuttal testimony of paragraph 9 is incorrect to the extent that it represents the production of any warranty or guarantee information concerning the CO catalyst.
In my possession, correct? It is
Oh,
correct.
and you didn't limit this to you, sir. You stated Algonquin, as a company, complied with the 10-person group document request, correct?
Algonquin complied with the 10-person group's document requests? I would, yes.
It doesn't say Mr. Goodrich complied.
Correct.
And you reviewed this answer with counsel before you finalized your rebuttal testimony?
Correct.
Ms. Rothschild, I would like to renew my request that's been stated at the pre-screening conference in February, set forth in writing in 10-persons group, request for production of documents, stated in the 10-persons group's memorandum of law in this proceeding, and then refuted by this witness's rebuttal testimony that we have not been provided with all manufacturer emissions warranties or guarantees for the proposed Weymouth compressor station. And if that information exists, then we absolutely need to review it and examine it.
With all due respect, Mr. Hayden, you haven't reviewed all the documents that we've produced. The documents that you're referring to that are attached to Mr. Goodrich's testimony are the documents that we originally marked as confidential before we got permission from the manufacturer to produce them. There are additional documents, several of them, I don't know the exact number, that were produced from manufacturers that include emissions warranty information. One of them is from the manufacturer for the oxidation catalyst, and you have it, and I can identify it for you this afternoon.
I would appreciate that. To the extent I missed a document in your tens of thousands of pages, I will offer an apology.
Thank you.
Can we move on?
We can.
Okay. Thank you, Mr. Cramb, for clarifying that.
Mr. Goodrich, you would agree that to the extent a document exists in Algonquin's possession that responds to the 10-persons group request for all manufacturer guarantees or warranties associated with the proposed Weymouth compressor station that addresses the oxidation catalyst manufacturer, you did not describe it in your rebuttal testimony?
I don't think I described it in my rebuttal testimony because the only thing we were looking at producing at that point was the confidential guarantees from the manufacturers that we hadn't had cleared at that time.
Ms. Rothschild, what I would propose, I have no further questions for this witness. I appreciate Attorney Cramm's offer to direct me to the location of the oxidation catalyst manufacturer warranty or guarantee over the lunch break. To the extent that I have any follow-up questions for this witness based upon the review of that document, I would request that opportunity. But absent that continued line of inquiry, I have no further questions for this.
Actually, I'm not sure that's fair. If I can't establish, in fact, that this is a document that he's had for weeks, I don't see why I need to identify it for him, explain to him what it is, and then allow him a second opportunity to examine his witness.
When was this document produced?
With our initial production in or around 30 days of the request. There,
It was sort of around April 12th there?
yeah, I don't remember the specific date, but very timely.
Okay.
And I will note, Ms. Rothschild, to the extent this is relevant, that the applicant produced tens of thousands of documents in zip file format, and the 10-persons group served 20 document requests. None of the applicant's responses to the 10-persons group's document request made any reference to any particular Bates numbered document or Bates range, with the exception of referring to application section 3.1 and attachment G, detailed emissions calculations in manufacturer specifications. And I'm happy to submit the applicant's response to the 10-persons group document requests for the record. The exchange of confidential documents was accurately described by Attorney Cramb, and those are the documents that I reviewed and that this witness attached as exhibits to his pre-filed rebuttal testimony. To the extent this additional document exists, it is simply contained within tens of thousands of pages that had no other cross-reference in the applicant's document response.
I have I have a question.
Yeah.
The document you're referring to is not among the confidential,
Correct,
correct?
yes.
Were those documents provided to Mr. Hayden in any kind of searchable form, word searchable form?
Well, they were produced as PDFs, and I don't know if they came with OCR already completed, which allows you to search the text, but they easily could, that could have been performed upon receipt. I don't know. That is above my area of expertise. I can identify the specific oxidation catalyst emissions document by base number right now. That's helpful.
I think it would be helpful, I think what I'm trying to get at, because I appreciate your point. If the document was provided and it was overlooked by petitioners, I don't know that it's fair to give them another opportunity with this witness's testimony essentially concluded for a document that they should have had available, if it was provided. But I am sensitive to the concept that something could have been buried in a way. And I'm not implying that there was any intent to bury the document, because I think it was clear at the pre-hearing conference, it was clear in the teleconference we had at the beginning of April what they were looking for. So if it was sort of obviously apparent that this document was there, that's one thing. If it was not, I mean, it's entirely conceivable
that
that
I
Mr. Hayden just missed it.
Yes, and that I believe I can speak to. There's a whole series of manufacturer-related documents about all the different equipment that's included within the compressor station. And they are together in the documents that we reviewed, and I believe they stayed together in order in the documents that we produced. To the extent that there's a reference to hundreds of thousands of pages, we did not produce hundreds of thousands of documents.
Tens of thousands.
We did not produce tens of thousands of documents. If there are tens of thousands of pages, it's because some of those documents are the modeling data files, which are just pages and pages of numbers that you actually need the disk to import into the modeling software. So it's not something that he would have been looking for a needle in a haystack among the manufacturer documents are separate from the modeling files.
So it's your position that this document is easily found
Well,
among the documents?
I believe so. And the other way that easily could have been found is Mr. Hayden could have picked up the phone and said, Mr. Cramb, I cannot locate what I believe you've identified or described elsewhere in this case. Could you help me find it? And I could have done that immediately. And I have done it here.
So, Mr. Hayden, given that you've had these documents for over a month, I would have expected that you were diligent in requesting the documents on more than one occasion, having they were produced. So I do think it's really on you if you didn't find
I will concede that the applicant won this battle with the 16,000 pages of documents that it produced in response to 20 document requests. If I missed it, I missed it. I own that.
We apologize for being complete.
And I appreciate the number of documents that were produced in this matter, including those attached to Dr. Baldwin's testimony. It's 5,300 pages. So I am not going to allow Mr. Goodrich to be recalled after lunch, but you've made the argument in your memorandum with regard to this issue of major, non-major guarantees. So I think you can address this in your closing brief.
Accepting your ruling, Madam Presiding Officer, may I have one more question for the witness?
You may.
Mr. Goodrich, have you ever seen the oxidation catalyst manufacturer guarantee or warranty for the proposed Weymouth compressor station?
Yes, as I said, I thought it had been produced earlier for the agency when they asked for it,
Then why didn't you reference it in your testimony?
because it had already been produced and was in the documents that the agency already had.
And from your recollection, what does that warranty say?
It says 95% for CO, 95% for formaldehyde, and 50% for VOC overall.
Well, since we've gone through at great length the emissions requirement language of the solar technical proposal. Does the oxidation catalyst manufacturer represent a warranty, a guarantee,
I'd have to go back and look at the
or
document.
is it a similar emissions requirement?
I would have to go back and look at the document, I'm sure.
No further questions, thank you.
Any redirect?
Yes?
Can I have a water before we
Yes.
start this discussion?
Go off the record for a moment, please. It's 10 to 1. People want a lunch break?
I don't eat lunch, man.
I knew someone here was a robot.
It may be that can be more efficient if we do it after the lunch break.
Okay.
See what, if I actually,
Why don't we take a lunch break, be back and ready to go at 1:30?
Hey, can I have that base page?
yeah, I'll write it down.
So we'll be back at 1:30, we'll include the redirect and any recross with Mr. Goodrich and move on to the
Thank you.
Presiding Officer, did you find the answer to the security question?
So we have a couple of contingencies built in for today. The building has allowed us to be here until 7 o'clock.
Thank you.
The escalators.
Well, you should say that on the record. No, I
Enjoyed that. Thank you, Nick.
So I just want to let everybody know, this committee has graciously enabled, the building will be available until 7, so we can go till 7 tonight. And we will intend to go until the DEP witnesses are finished, up till 7. Thank you.
Mike, that is in reference to the specific document that I was describing during our colloquy here.
Okay.
It is in a series of other manufactured documents. I don't know if there are others that relate to this or not, but that is definitely the one that I'm referring to.
Take a look.
Thank you.
You know, I remember when I was doing the 14,000 series, I was nodding off. It's embarrassing to have that. It's there.
And they just remodeled last year, so it's on the positives.
I can take it back.
It's just on my desk, I don't know.
That is, we sent her earlier.
Ms. Rothschild, before we go back on, since I didn't have the ability to print, I was able to pull up the document referenced by Attorney Cramb, and I emailed it around to the entire distribution list, so
Okay.
we can see what he is referring to.
Thank you for doing that.
You're welcome.
I'll remind you, you're still under oath. Mr. Cramb, any redirect of Mr. Goodrich?
Briefly, thank you. Mr. Goodrich, is it your understanding that Enbridge agreed to purchase a 9 parts per million NOx turbine.
Yes.
And what does that mean? What is a 9 parts per million NOx turbine?
A 9 ppm NOx turbine is a unit that will emit no more than 9 ppm NOx across its standard operating range of 50 to 100% load above 0 degrees Fahrenheit for as long as we maintain the unit per solar recommendations.
And it is your understanding that that's the specific technology that Enbridge has agreed to purchase from Solar, correct?
Correct.
And Mr. Hayden spent some time with you looking at the proposal from Solar, which is attached to your rebuttal at Exhibit B, and specifically to page 10.
Yes.
And at the bottom of page 10, there's a section that is titled Emissions Requirement, correct?
Correct.
What is an emissions requirement?
Emissions requirement is the level of emissions that we expect that unit to meet, similar to a guarantee for their standard warranty range, which is 50 to 100% load for this unit above 0 degrees Fahrenheit. So from the time we start operating this unit, absent the shakedown period, this unit will emit less than 9 ppm NOx, less than 9 ppm CO, and less than 25 ppm CO, and less than 25 ppm unburned hydrocarbons prior to the catalyst at all times when the temperatures are above 0 and is operated above 50% load.
And do you have an understanding of why there is an emissions requirement stated in Solar's proposal?
The emissions requirement is there so that we can have a maximum level of emissions to calculate from the unit so we can accurately represent those emissions to the agency for their approval.
And are there emissions requirements in all of the turbines, in all of the proposals for turbines that Enbridge buys from Taurus?
From Solar?
Solar, sorry, thank you.
Yes, every turbine that we purchase from Solar has a emissions requirement of either 9 or 12 or 15 ppm, depending on the situation and the size of the unit.
And in the course of doing your job, do you consider the emissions requirement a guarantee or a warranty?
Yes, at all times we assume we'll be.
I'll object to the question, Ms. Leading.
Sustained.
Okay. How do you refer to the? How do you regularly refer to the emissions requirement in the course of doing your job?
We routinely call it a guarantee or a warranty simply because it's the level at which the unit will always achieve as long as it's maintained correctly for the life of the unit.
Do you understand that Solar has made a promise to Spectre or Enbridge with respect to the NOx emissions for the unit that Enbridge is agreeing to purchase?
Objection, Leading.
Sustained. Rephrase.
Has Solar made any promise with respect to emissions for the unit that Enbridge has agreed to purchase?
Yes, if we test the unit and it is above 9 ppm NOx, 25 ppm CO, or 25 ppm unburned hydrocarbon, they will come out for a set period of time and repair the unit for free to make sure that it achieves that level of performance of emissions.
And do you have an understanding as to whether or not that promise is stated in the proposal?
I believe this is where it's stated in the proposal right here in the emissions requirement.
Does the air quality plan approval have limits that are based on the emissions requirement?
I think it's one of the basic documents.
I can give you a copy. Mr. Goodrich. Oh, you got it.
In general, as I'm looking for it, I can tell you that the emission requirements on annual emissions and hourly emissions are based on the 9 ppm number and the average annual temperature throughout the year.
Okay.
In order to comply with those requirements, we have periodic testing for the new source performance standard for this unit. As found in Table 6, they apply to the combustion turbine, 40 CFR Part 60 subpart KKKK. That specifies the routine testing that must be done for the unit on a periodic basis.
Okay, so I think you're a step ahead of me, but there are limits in the permit that are based on the emissions requirement that comes with the turbine, correct?
Objection, Leading.
Sustained.
Are there limits stated in the permit that are based on the emissions requirement?
Yes, the emission limit in table 8A has a 9 ppm VD at 15% O2. Also lists 0.94 tons per month or 10.03 tons per year. Those are all based on the 9 ppm emissions warranty from the vendor.
A minute ago, you described something that is in table 6. Is that correct?
Yes.
Do you have an understanding as to whether or not the permit includes conditions that ensure that Algonquin will comply with the emissions requirements that you just looked at?
The paragraph above table 6 says the permittee has indicated that the project and emission units therein are subject to and will comply with the EPA's new source performance standard and national emission standards for hazardous air pollutants, and Mass DEP's industry performance standards as follows. And then table 6 says combustion turbine, 40 CFR part 60, subpart KKKK, title is standard of performance for stationary combustion turbines.
And does that somehow relate to insurances that Algonquin will comply with the emissions limit in the permit?
That is the section of the Federal Register that requires periodic testing for turbines of this size, yes.
Do you have an understanding generally as to what would happen if Algonquin does not comply with the emissions limits in the permit?
I believe we would be subject to enforcement actions from the agency.
Has Enbridge recently installed any other 9 parts per million NOx turbines?
Since the time of this application was submitted, we've installed several 9 ppm turbines in Connecticut, Ohio, Texas, I believe, as well as Georgia and Florida.
And do they have a similar 9 parts per million NOx emission requirement like that in the solar proposal that we've been looking at?
They do. They've all received the same 9 ppm solar guarantee as in the proposal, and they all have tested out to meet that for all of their compliance testing.
And what do you mean they test out to meet that?
So after you start up a new turbine, you have roughly 90 days from the time you reach full load to conduct a agency-sanctioned compliance test as laid out in subpart KKKK. And that test is there to confirm that the NOx performance is as indicated. And most of those permits also have requirements for CO and VOC testing as well.
Do you expect that Solar will be involved in the installation and commissioning of the turbine at the Weymouth site?
Solar will come out and participate in the installation of the turbine, and then they test it out upon installation to make sure that it is performing the same manner it was at the factory prior to delivery.
And at some point, do they sign off on the unit?
My understanding is the project manager then officially accepts the unit with a formal document stating what the emissions performance was at that time.
And okay, thank you. Mr. Miyares asked you some questions about a backed analysis that was performed by Dominion with respect to some compressors in Virginia and possibly other locations as well. Do you remember that?
Yes.
And calling your attention back to paragraph 24 of your rebuttal.
I'm ready.
Okay. Do you know whether Virginia has the same cost feasibility factors that Massachusetts does for its backed analysis?
I do not believe Virginia publishes what their cost feasibility threshold is for NOx.
And do you know whether Dominion performed a backed analysis to determine cost effectiveness of NOx removal for the compressor station it proposed in Virginia?
As indicated in my testimony, they performed an analysis that came in at $50,000 to $103,000 per ton of NOx removed through the application of the SCR system.
What does that mean?
That means that it would require, the additional equipment would cost approximately $50,000 for each ton of NOx removed from the system over the life of the SCR system in addition to the turbine.
Okay, and is that within Massachusetts cost feasibility range?
No, I believe Massachusetts cost feasibility range is $11,000 to $13,000 for non-attainment criteria pollutants such as NOx.
Right. You were also asked about the gas quality estimations in your direct testimony, which I believe are in paragraph 32C.
Yeah.
In your view, are Algonquin's gas quality estimations conservative?
Yes, so the way that we analyze our gas quality is we look at all the samples taken across the system as indicated here, and then for an individual, gotta make sure I remember
I think
correctly.
you gotta slow down a little bit for the stenographer.
She making faces at me again. So Algonquin assumed that the average annual emissions would be represented by the 90th upper percentile of the value observed in those 421 samples. That means we assume that our max annual, or our average annual gas quality would be represented by the top 10% of those 421 samples. And then the max hourly gas quality would be represented by the absolute highest sample for each compound that we analyze for. So it's very unlikely that we would ever see both of those or either of those in either an average annual or max hourly situation.
What does it mean that you consider each compound?
So if the VOC content, for example, was 2% and there were 4 compounds in there, if you look at the max annual for each compound, it will not add up to what the 2% is, it will add up to a much higher number than that, so that we are conservative in our estimate of each individual compound in the gas quality. So it's a situation that could actually never happen to have every compound over 90% because we would be over the VOC limits in the gas.
You were also asked some questions by Mr. Miyares about the maintenance costs that are associated with SCR. Do you recall that?
Correct.
And do you recall earlier in the proceeding that Mr. Powers had testified that the EPA's 4 hours per day estimate appeared in the most recent version of its guidance inexplicably?
Yes, he indicated that it was confusing to him.
Just take a look at.
Objection, this isn't within the scope of his cross-examination.
It directly relates to the cost of SCR.
Mr. Powers, he was not asking any questions about Mr. Powers' testimony in the course of cross-examination.
No, but he was asked with regard to maintenance and labor costs. And I believe that's where the question,
It does.
that was what the question relates to. So I think he could refer to another witness's testimony on that issue, but if after he asked the question, you can move to strike it, if you think that it is not relevant to the scope. But the costs of maintenance and labor costs is certainly within the scope of cross-examination.
Marked, please, for identification. Mr. Goodrich. Sorry, I got it right. Thank you. What number are we up to? 22. Thank you. Mr. Goodrich, do you recognize what this document is?
This is the response to comments on the cost control manual for SCR for EPA for, I believe, version 7.
And who prepared this document?
I believe it's the EPA.
And did you provide me with a copy of this document?
Yes.
Where did you obtain it from?
EPA's website, it's actually on the same page, just 2 links below where the current cost manual is published.
And in section 2.4.2, does this document address labor costs for SCR?
It does.
And does it give explanation as to how the EPA included 4 hours a day of operating labor in its cost guidance?
In summary, there was a commenter that stated that it was unreasonable to assume there are no operating costs associated with an SCR, and it references, I believe, the IPM, which is the same reference that was used in the previous version. And then the EPA responds that the EPA agrees that additional operating labor costs should be included in the total annual costs. In the final revised section, the approach follows the IPM model assumption of 4 hours per day operating labor.
Thank you. I'd like to ask that that be admitted into the record.
Any objection? Want a little more time to review that? Because we can defer a ruling on those. Would you like a little more time?
Yes, please.
We'll defer a ruling on whether that's, until he's had a chance to review it.
Thank you.
Well,
Thank you, Mr. Goodrich. I have no further questions.
any recross?
Yes, please.
Okay, how about it?
Thank you. Mr. Goodrich, you testified on redirect that Enbridge has installed 9 parts per million turbines in Connecticut, Ohio, Texas, Georgia, and Florida,
I believe that's correct, yes.
and that you received similar emissions requirements to what we looked at in the technical proposal.
Correct.
Has Enbridge received any written warranties or guarantees from Solar in connection with any of those 9 parts per million turbines installed in other states?
We asked specifically for the guarantee for the units, I believe, that are proposed to be installed this year, I think, actually in Pennsylvania and New Jersey.
Okay. And have you received them?
I've received those, yes.
So you do have written warranties or guarantees for Pennsylvania and New Jersey?
Yes, sir.
And that's separate and apart from the emissions requirements set forth in the technical proposal?
It's in addition to make sure that there was clarity for our paperwork.
And you do not have a warranty or guarantee in addition to the emissions requirement in the technical proposal for the proposed Weymouth compressor station?
I do not believe so.
You asked for one in this year.
I think so, yes.
And you asked for one because that's important to you to have that additional paperwork.
I asked for one just for clarification to make sure.
Right. And you asked for one in Pennsylvania because it's important to have that additional paperwork.
Yes, because there were some questions to make sure that everything was appropriate.
And you asked for one in New Jersey because it's important to have that additional paperwork.
I believe the state of New Jersey asked for it.
Fair enough. And you received them for Pennsylvania and New Jersey, but not for the Weymouth compressor station.
Correct.
Did you ask Universal AET for a written warranty or guarantee in connection with the oxidation catalyst?
No, we do not beyond what was provided previously in the record.
Is Universal AET the oxidation catalyst manufacturer?
I believe so.
The document that your counsel kindly drew my attention to is 2 pages. It does not identify the name Algonquin on it. It does not have the word formaldehyde on the document.
I'd have to take a look to see if it does or not.
May I show the witness?
I believe that Mr. Hayden was instructed not to ask about this document.
Well, I believe the entire line of inquiry was opened up on redirect as to the emissions requirements for the facility. The witness was shown the air quality plan approval and the representations made about emissions guarantees in the air quality plan approval. The witness was shown and asked to read language from the emissions requirement in the technical proposal, which includes this specific reference to the oxidation catalyst manufacturer guarantee.
I do think you opened the door, because the witness testified that he considers the emission requirement a warranty or guarantee.
Absent a hard copy, may I show the witness? It's the document that I emailed to all counsel over the lunch break.
I haven't been on my email, but I can see it from here that it looks familiar, so I do not object. Do you mind if I look from afar?
I have one question about this. This document is not part of the record, correct?
I don't believe so.
Do you want to make it a part of the record?
I do, and if I could impose upon the Office of Appeal and Dispute Resolution, I did email it, including to the
We do not object.
Okay, it went to OADR?
It did.
Okay, so I will make sure that gets printed out and included in the record.
Thank you. For the record, we're showing the witness a two-page document from Algonquin's production with Bates numbers ALG 0014496 and 14497. Are you familiar with this document, Mr. Goodrich?
Yes, sir.
What does this document represent to you?
This is the catalyst performance guarantee from the catalyst manufacturer.
What's the date?
January 10th, 2017.
Has Algonquin received any subsequent information from the catalyst manufacturer, the oxidation catalyst manufacturer, concerning any warranties or guarantees associated with that product?
I do not believe so.
And in the technical proposal, there's a reference to customer to purchase CO catalyst for 95% destruction of CO and 95% reduction of formaldehyde, correct?
Correct.
Do you see that information set forth on the document you're looking at from Universal AET?
I do. On the first page, it says estimated CO DRE for each of the 5 cases is 97%, 97.5%, 97.9%, 98.3%, and 98.6%. The next line says estimated HCHO DRE, which is formaldehyde, and it says 95% across the board.
Okay. Where on this document does it say those estimates are guaranteed?
It doesn't. We treat them as guarantees because that's what we present to the agency, that we will always achieve at least these DRE requirements.
Let me draw your attention to the language at the bottom of this page. Bottom of the same page you're looking at. There's an asterisk. Do you see that?
Correct.
What does that language say after the asterisk?
Required DREs are guaranteed based on 25 ppm carbon monoxide and fuel quality per solar supplied performance data.
So there is a guarantee on this document, correct?
Correct.
The guarantee only by its language applies to required DREs, correct?
Correct.
And there is no required DRE for formaldehyde on this document, correct?
No, but we treated the estimate.
It's
as
a yes or no
required
question,
DRE.
sir.
Please, one at a time.
No, but we treated the
It's
estimated
a yes or no
DRE.
question, sir. Is there a required,
Let him answer the question, Mr. Hayden. Let him answer, and then you can ask your follow-up question.
yes or no, is there a required DRE for formaldehyde on this document?
There is an estimated DRE that we treat as a requirement when we present our emissions to the agency for enforceable limits in the permit.
So Universal AET included language on this document that says required DREs are guaranteed based on 25 ppm CO and fuel quality per solar supplied performance data, correct?
Correct.
And the only reference to formaldehyde is in the context of an estimated DRE, not a required DRE. Is that correct?
Correct.
I have no further questions.
Well, the estimated VOC DRE is.
There's
There's
no
no
questions.
questions pending.
Sorry.
Any redirect?
Mr. Goodrich, did you have something that you felt you needed to clarify in order to give a complete answer to that last question?
The estimated VOC DRE on this sheet is 83.1% versus the required DRE that it meets 95%, so it's higher than the requirement actually meets the estimated.
What does that mean?
That means that the performance is actually higher than the estimated.
The guaranteed performance is higher than the estimated?
Correct.
Thank you.
And if I may, just on that point, you're not referring to formaldehyde. There is no required HCHO DRE, correct?
Correct.
Mr. Miyares? Mr. Goldrosen?
No further questions.